About Beer receives underwriting support from Breakside Brewery. They understand the importance of independent journalism in the beer space, and their support helps fund original work. Learn how you can affordably support journalists by visiting allaboutbeer.com/support.
Welcome to Drink Beer, Think Beer, the podcast that gets to the bottom of every pint. I'm John Holl. This week starts our road to Indianapolis and the upcoming Craft Brewers Conference. Indianapolis is a great city to visit and has a host of excellent breweries. One of them, Guggenberger, will join me in a moment to talk about lagers, IndyCar racing, and building a family business. And this seems like a good time to invite you to come out and see some of our shows in person. During the Craft Brewers Conference in Indianapolis, we're going to be setting up at Sun King Brewery for 3 days of live audience recordings. Join us on April 28th, 29th, and 30th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. each day as we bring you shows like Drink Beer, Think Beer, Brewer to Brewer, and the All About Beer podcast hosted by M. Sauter and Don Tess. You can learn more about what we're going to be doing, who we're going to be doing it with, and we'll even buy you a beer. But you can find out more at allaboutbeer.com/CBC 2025. You can also keep up with the events and more on our social media. We're at All About Beer across all the major platforms. And if you have comments, guest suggestions, or just want to reach out, you can always email me at johnholl, that's JOHNHOLL, at allaboutbeer.com. We're also supported by you, so head over to allaboutbeer.com/support and learn how just a few bucks can have a huge impact in supporting original journalism in the beer space. And on that note, thanks to this episode's sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Stomp Stickers. Stomp makes it easy for breweries to stock up on the essential packaging and promotional supplies all in one place. From beer labels and keg collars to coasters, beer boxes, and more, they've got you covered. Plus, every product is backed by their 100% satisfaction guarantee, and their full-time support squad is ready to help anytime. Visit stompstickers.com and use code THINKBEER for 15% off of your first order. You love craft beer. You'll love Indy. The Indy Craft Pass is your free passport to more than 40 of the city's best breweries: Sun King, Metazoa, Upland, and so many more. Check in, earn points, score swag. Yes, beer can actually win you prizes. Sip local and explore new tap rooms and make your beer run count. Grab your free Indy Craft Pass now at visitindy.com and let the good beers roll. If you're running a brewery, owner or operator, Beer 30 by The Fifth Ingredient is the ultimate command center. The most powerful brewery management software on the market, Beer 30 handles the entire brewing workflow from recipe development to production. Once your beer is brewed and ready, it seamlessly manages your inventory and streamlines your brewery's sales and distribution, all in the same easy-to-use platform. Beer 30 lets you get back to the beer and to the people that made you fall in love with this industry in the first place. And no other brewery management software gives you the ability to truly master your business and get the insights that you need to thrive in an increasingly competitive industry. Visit thefifthingredient.com/allaboutbeer today to learn more and receive 3 free months of Beer 30. It's been a few years since I was last in Indianapolis, and there's some places I know, and you'll hear from them in the coming weeks, but I wanted to kick off this series with someplace new to me. Fortunately, I have a good friend who lives in town who is happy to offer suggestions, and at the top of his list was Guggenberger. So shortly after landing a few weeks back, I took a stroll to the brewery not far from downtown. Guggenberger started to come together in 2015. Identical twin sisters, Abby Gorman and Courtney Guggenberger, own the brewery with their husbands, Derek Guggenberger and Ryan Gorman. The brewery name is a mash of their 2 last names. Over time, both couples developed a love of beer through location and travel and home brewing. And eventually, it seemed like it was time to go all in and open a brewery. They'll share more of the story along the way, but the location inside a historic IndyCar building that once held the Boyle Racing headquarters is a destination on its own. The beer they're brewing, along with the hospitality, will make you want to stay for a proper visit and then plot out returns. I sat down with Abby Gorman, who runs a lot of the business, including events, community partnerships, HR, merch, and the brew crew, and Derek Guggenberger, the head brewer. And we talked about all things Guggenberger House. Here's our conversation. So we're sitting in this really cool space, and thanks for hosting and having me here for this show. I want to talk about the importance of this room that we're in right now, the space that we're in right now, not only to you guys as brewery owners, but also to the city of Indianapolis.
So the space we're in, so this whole space is the Boyle Racing headquarters, which back in the 30s and 40s was home to the Boyle race team, which housed IndyCar winner Wilbur Shaw, 3-time IndyCar winner. And so...
I guess, one of the big things about it is that right before World War, or I guess during World War II, Wilbur Shaw convinced the Holmans to purchase the track, because the track was actually going to get turned into a subdivision at that point. And so, I know, crazy to imagine that, because this is what Indy's known for worldwide.
In fairness, prime real estate.
It is,
yeah. It's what's the line from Caddyshack? It's like cemeteries and golf courses, the two biggest wastes of, yeah. But anyway, sorry.
But anyway, so he convinced them to keep the track here in Indianapolis, and that's why we still have the Indianapolis 500 for sure. So it's a big part of the history, of the city for sure.
But this is where he
this is where he
worked
raced
on his
out
cars
of.
and raced out of. Like this was the headquarters of
kind of like right in this room where we're sitting.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, what's impressive, and we were talking about before we started, of just like the size of the brick and the solidness of this building and the history of this building. But when you all decided to, put the two sides of the family together and like, we're gonna do this. This place was a wreck. Like, and you showed me photos. I'm not being, I'm not wrong. I'm not exaggerating here. Like there was no ceiling. The walls had caved in a little bit. Like everything was pretty terrible.
It was beautifully destroyed. Yeah. It's kind of how I would call it. It was a photographer's dream to photograph. But yeah, so we had partnered with it was the Boyle Racing headquarters team at the time, the foundation, the Boyle Racing Foundation, a group of people that had gotten together that wanted to save this building, and so we partnered with them and brought our vision. I mean, we were able to see it, our space, and what we wanted to do here, and it melded, it meshed. Took a long time.
Yeah.
But we're excited to be here and to keep the history of it alive.
Yeah. So let's go back to then the conversations that you and your sister had, and your brother-in-law and your husband and all that, of we want to open a brewery, we want it to be this, and then how those conversations squared with this location.
Yeah, I think, for us, we were very much on the same page. So, Abby and Ryan came from Colorado, huge beer scene out there. Courtney and I lived in Germany for a year. And so we both got to experience...
Also a beer scene there.
Yeah, extremely good beer scene. And so we both got to experience these incredible beer cultures. And so we were already on the same page as far as what we wanted, the feel of the space, just the general atmosphere, all of that, outside seating, community tables, all those things combined. So that was already preset. And then when we saw this space, we saw the potential to grow. We saw that we could have a lot of outdoor space, that we wanted. We wanted a big beer garden and all of that. It just took a little more vision to see, okay, there's a building literally without a roof in most of it. How does this get turned into what we want it to be?
Yeah. But Abby, you were showing me those photos that you took, and there's captions on some of them where you're walking around, and it looks like Dresden, like it's been bombed out. And there, you guys are pointing like the canning line will go here, like what, we'll put a lovely fireplace over here, kind of thing. Like you could see the vision through the rubble.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and it was a beautiful space. I mean, it is, all, exposed beams, huge, wood beams that, for the entire building, very much in line with what we see with, in Germany, and things like that. And so it really, just from the very beginning, we saw this is really cool. You see some of the old pictures of this space, and how it was used, and it was very much like it was when we came and saw it.
Yeah.
Even back from the 30s and 40s, and so that meshed really well with kind of just the general, I guess we kind of feel that we wanted for the space.
Yeah.
What was the first conversation between the two couples, between the siblings, the in-laws, where it was like, let's do this? Like, there had to have been beer involved. Maybe?
So Derek and Courtney, Derek started homebrewing when they were moved back here to Indy. Derek and Courtney started homebrewing when they moved back. And then Ryan actually and I were out in Denver for a couple years, so he started homebrewing out there. And I'm sure at one of the Christmases that we were home or something, we threw around the idea of opening a brewery.
Was it you guys were like, was it an uncle being like, oh, when are you going to open up your own? Yeah. Was like,
no, I don't think there was any of that. It was more of like I had enjoyed it so much, and Ryan had enjoyed it so much, and it was right during the time where some more breweries were opening, and I just happened to have stumbled upon a podcast of an Anna brewery that was opening, and that was such a different thing compared to the bigger breweries that we saw around here, because that was around say like the Sun King opening time, where they're just huge, distributing everywhere, all that kind of stuff, and that made it so unapproachable. Compared to when we heard this podcast from Nana Brewer, like, I started with, one barrel system in the garage, and, little do we know now how rough that is to start that way. But at the time it sounded okay. And so,
Do you remember the brewery?
Is out in California, Device Brewing, maybe?
I don't know.
Anyway, right. I don't know if they really grew much more from that spot, but it was on, I'm trying to think of the podcast. It was, the one that like Jamil would host.
Oh, sure.
Anyway, a long time ago.
Yeah. But it sparked like, okay, we can actually do this on a homebrew scale. Kind of thing. Yeah.
It made it approachable. So like, going from homebrewing to like a 20 barrel system at the time was like, no, like you can't even fathom that happening. But when we heard someone was doing it only a few times bigger than what we were brewing in our basement, suddenly it made it a much more approachable idea.
Yeah. So I remember sitting at a brewery out in Denver, Ryan and I, and probably texting Courtney. We were all probably on a group chat thinking about what the name of our brewery would be. Going through all these names, they were all taken. It's very hard to name a brewery with a name that's not taken.
Yep.
Until you combine your last names, and then you have a name like we have.
I like that. Do you remember what brewery you were sitting at?
I think probably Lowdown.
Oh,
they might have closed.
I think they did.
That was right down the street from our apartment, and they had the best pizza.
Right. So I'm not going to get into this with folks. Like anytime that, unless it's in the greater New York area or very specific areas of Chicago, like we can't say great pizza.
We could walk there.
Okay.
So it was great.
Fine, that's fine. Yeah, anything at 2 a.m. after the bar closes is fun. But I'm just I'm tired of arguing with people about pizza. So. The conversation starts and you're saying, okay, we could be a nano. We could be, we could do this. We'll probably keep the day jobs. We will probably, have fun, but it's not going to be a huge thing. When does the thought from, okay, we could do a nano grow to we're going to take over how many square feet? How many thousands of square feet are we in right now?
I think this main building is about 20,000 square feet.
Yeah. Sure. There's nothing nano about that.
No.
Yeah. So when does that conversation happen and then the real work take off? Because at some point, right, I have to imagine like those are fun conversations. You guys see each other at the holidays, you're talking, you're drinking each other's homebrew. It's like, oh, we're going to do this. And then at some point there's that real conversation where it's like, we're going to write a check. Or we're going to get investors, or we're going to leverage our kids' futures on the not the folly of beer, but like we want to become entrepreneurs. We want to do this. Like, what was when and what was that conversation for you for both of you?
Yeah, I mean it took several years. So we just 3 years on its own were spent getting a business plan together, figuring out the financing part and all that. It really wasn't until I guess let's say a couple years in when we were starting to look for locations where we did see, we're looking at one spot, closer to where we live. And then next thing we know, we get approached by, the group that Abby talked about earlier that was looking to restore this building, and at least at the time, the arrangement made it much more approachable to be able to take over this bigger space that we were looking at. Didn't end up working out quite like we were thinking it would be, of course.
Yeah.
But we still were on that path, and once we saw, I guess, what we could do here, it was hard to go backwards, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, and we moved back, Ryan and I did in 2014, and I think to go back to that a little bit, they basically ripped out our Broad Ripple basement down to, ripped out the ceiling, everything, and put in the microbrewery and nano brewery in the basement. So we had like 9 taps coming out of the cold room underneath the steps in our little Broad Ripple home.
Okay.
And then, they just worked
Broad
on
Ripple's
recipes
a
from there.
But yeah,
it is. Yeah.
I'm just saying for the folks at home, kind of thing. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the idea,
you weren't selling beer out of there.
No.
Okay,
No.
This was just like.
Yeah. We knew we were going to open, and so it was developing these recipes to get ready to open.
Okay.
And so we took it very seriously. It wasn't like we were going to open, then kind of figure it out as we went. It was like we wanted to have these great recipes, from the very get go. Now these core beers, because that was a time where. Core beers was the thing.
Yeah.
And it still is somewhat, but people get away with that too, without doing it too now.
Sure. I've been thinking a lot about 2026 and how, depending on how 2025 goes, I'm seeing the troubles that the industry has had for the last couple of years that have started to come home to roost. That this year is going to be a little bit more of a continuation of the shakeout of folks, who just can't do it for whatever reason, and no shame in that. But 2026 is the rebuilding year. Like the end of 2025 and into 2026 is going to be okay. Like we've battened down the hatches, we've figured out like what's going to be, working for us, and we're going to hit the ground running in 2026 for stability, growth, that kind of thing. When you ripped out the basement and started putting 9 taps on, and I imagine you had folks coming over that were not part of the family and that were drinking your beer. Put yourself back in that home brewer situation getting ready to open. What was the feedback that was valuable to you as a brewer that wasn't just, your deadbeat buddies drinking for free being like, this is the best brown ale I've ever had because they're getting drunk for free? Like, what was the feedback that helped you dial in those recipes back then?
I mean, a lot of it was still like we didn't do homebrew clubs. Not that there was anything wrong with them. Like, we love it. It was just more of we were busy enough with.
And Indiana's got great ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with starting families and starting a business, all that kind of stuff, having the extra time for that, it just we couldn't do it. So a lot of it was relying on our taste because we're experienced drinkers. In a good way.
I get it.
They lived
judgment.
They lived in Colorado. We were in Germany. We know what good beer tastes like.
Yeah.
And so some of it was dialing in ourselves. And
being honest with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we were like, okay, what kind of base malt do we want to use? Okay, so we got 3 different base malts. Trialed a beer with all of them, and we're like, okay, we like this one. And then when we had people over, we got some feedback, but you take some of that with a grain of salt. Like not everyone's gonna be an IPA lover or things like that. And so we have them try all these different beers. There was some good feedback, but a lot of it was still relying on our own taste and just trusting that we knew, what we were doing. We tried to be unbiased about it.
I did have fun making the little feedback forms, though.
We
pass out at the, baby showers and holiday parties. Yeah, it was fun.
Were people excited to see you like walk in with those forms, or at some point was it like, okay?
No, it was probably just a few that we did, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you look back on the business plan now that you've been open for a couple of years, what is the biggest thing that's still intact, and what is been far left behind in the rear view?
I mean, I honestly, because we looked back at it recently, like it very much is in line with what we're doing now. The culture we're going for, beer, of course, being, the critical part of what we have to do. You can have all this other great stuff, but if the beer is not good, like people aren't going to want to stay or come back, that kind of stuff. And so, very much everything is in line. Certainly maybe we're bigger now, or at least we're growing to a bigger size than we originally were thinking. But as far as like the culture fit and the beer priority, all that kind of stuff, that is very much in line with what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big space, so we knew we needed to fill it with people from the beginning, which obviously that took time to grow. And we started in the house, so we were able to start on a smaller scale as we built up our following.
Which is literally a house next door.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, with COVID and everything, it kind of all just worked out the best it could have in that sense. But when you look around, it is a big space, and we knew that we needed to cultivate an experience for people when they come, so that they want to come back and that they can make it their third space, to come and hang out and bring people and yeah.
Yeah. So the third space. Oh, sorry. Did you want to jump in? No. Go for it.
No, you're good.
Okay.
No, sorry.
All right. You looked like you had like a, All right. So that third space, though, there's the coffee aspect that's attached to this, and opening up at 8:00 every morning. I can appreciate this as a destination for a brewery and driving in or getting a ride share over or whatever. You're not necessarily in a populated area. There's a soybean silo that you pointed out to me that's hard to miss as you're walking up the street here. It's a lot of industrial stuff. Talk to me about the coffee aspect and that third
sure.
space.
Yeah. So we opened the coffee house last year, last May, last June. I would say for us, it was good use of the house. We love the space. It's where we originally opened the brewery. So to us, it just made sense. We love coffee, and love the community vibe that it brings, which is similar to why we wanted to open the brewery in the first place. So it just made sense to us to give it a try as a coffee shop. And I think it certainly has taken time. Like, people know us as a brewery, so getting the word out about the coffee house is still a work in progress. But I would say the neighborhood we're in, Riverside, we're getting people from the neighborhood that are walking over, actually, but also people, I think, that are just starting to hear about us kind of from all over. They want to come and hang out for the day and work. That they want to come over here, for lunch and kind of spend the day with us is the overall theme that we could have there.
And you're seeing that it, for the folks who come over and are sitting at the coffee shop, it extends from, okay, I'm now going to switch from coffee to beer at 3:00 in the afternoon, or maybe 4, depending on how professional they are. But it does, the one business feeds into the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We kind of look at it as we're trying to bridge that gap of one business, or they can support each other. And it's an option for people that don't want beer. They can come and enjoy coffee or espresso or a non-alcoholic drink that we make there. I would say this past Saturday was our Snow and Stouts day, kind of a celebration of the beer garden. We started it. This was our 3rd year. It was an ode to our milk stout and an ode to our beer garden, because during COVID we were outside only, so people showed up to drink beer literally in the snow in the beer garden. So we started Snow and Stouts. We have live music outside. This year it was the first day of February. So I think we saw some people come out that were maybe hadn't been drinking during January. But all that to say, we had the coffee house open as well. So it was really great to see people, enjoying a flight of beer and then grabbing a coffee, as they were heading out, or sitting in the beer garden with coffee too.
But do you find that when the beer side of things opens, to the public, air quotes kind of thing, that you typically then have a built-in audience, that people migrate from one to the other?
I would say that is still building.
Okay.
I think a lot of people come to the coffee house just for coffee.
Okay.
But also we're starting to see people or groups that are meeting here, maybe for work or whatnot, who will start at the coffee house and then come over here to finish a meeting.
Yeah.
Or to, then have happy hour here and whatnot.
I like that. Mm-hmm. I'm so fascinated by this building and the history and the rebuilding of it, and the group that wanted to save it, because that takes passion, right? I mean, it takes money, but it takes passion to say, okay, this literal pile of bricks is important to the city's history in racing, and we don't want to see it demolished and generic apartments go up, or another soybean silo, or whatever. I've been out of the city for so long that when I was here, I really appreciated the Speedway. I went and I hung out there. I got to, see the pagoda. I got to, do the whole thing, and it was really exciting. And it's hard not to Like, I don't appreciate car racing, like, on any level, but like it's fun to be around because the people who are really into it are really into it, and if they're excited, then I'm excited, and you go from there. How does this location? I imagine that there's a lot of history buffs for IndyCar racing that come through here that are, just thrilled to be in the walls. And then there's a lot of people who walk through and, they see Wilbur's old truck and they're like, oh, that's cool. And then they go and get beer. But what's the intersection between Indy's beer racing history and what you're building now towards the future?
I mean, I think I guess for us it was, like you were saying, like the racing crowd can be so passionate about it, and it's incredible. And I love to see that too. And so it's a combination of them being so passionate about what they love, and us being so passionate about what we love. And it really was just a great combination of the two. Putting in basically having this business here that can support the space and keep this historic landmark going. It worked out great for both of us, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say around race weekend, we have a lot of fun.
Okay. Yeah, Memorial Day, I imagine,
Yeah, so we get a lot of people from out of town that have been starting to hear about our space and who want to come and check out the history here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been
And
fun.
it's a good introduction to the beer as well, I imagine, right? I mean, there's, a lot of other beers that are being consumed down at the Speedway. More in a moment, but first, thanks to this episode's sponsors. Streamline your supply chain with Stomp Stickers, the ultimate one-stop shop. Get everything you need in one place with easy online reorders, competitive pricing, and crazy fast turnarounds. Hassle-free ordering and a smooth experience are what Stomp is all about. See for yourself at stompstickers.com and use the code THINKBEER for 15% off of your first order. You love craft beer. You'll love Indy. The Indy Craft Pass is your free passport to more than 40 of the city's best breweries. Sun King, Metazoa, Upland, and so many more. Check in, earn points, score swag. Yes, beer can actually win you prizes. Sip local and explore new tap rooms and make your beer run count. Grab your free Indy Craft Pass now at visitindy.com and let the good beers roll. If you're running a brewery, owner or operator, Beer 30 by The Fifth Ingredient is the ultimate command center. The most powerful brewery management software on the market, Beer 30 handles the entire brewing workflow, from recipe development to production. Once your beer is brewed and ready, it seamlessly manages your inventory and streamlines your brewery's sales and distribution, all in the same easy-to-use platform. Beer 30 lets you get back to the beer and to the people that made you fall in love with this industry in the first place. And no other brewery management software gives you the ability to truly master your business and get the insights that you need to thrive in an increasingly competitive industry. Visit thefifthingredient.com/allaboutbeer today to learn more and receive 3 free months of Beer 30. And now, back to my conversation with Abby Gorman and Derek Guggenberger of Guggenberger House Brewery in Indianapolis. So let's talk about that then, the beers that you're making. You obviously have the milk stout, which is the nod to drinking milk after winning the 500.
Yep.
But there, in the quick glance at your list when I first walked in, and then you handed me a wonderful Pilsner. Now I have a Helles and a hazy IPA in front of me. Stay tuned for show 2. There's a lot of approachable beers. There's a lot of still meeting the vast majority of drinkers where they are, which is outside of the craft space. And I have to imagine that's deliberate.
Yeah. The beers we have on, I guess minus the brown ale, which is
awesome.
Obviously not
it's
hard.
Awesome. A brown ale is awesome.
Minus
more brown ales, please. Yeah.
Minus the brown ale. All the beers are our house beers now, were the beers that we started with.
Really?
And for us, it kind of goes into an incredible story for us. So we had just opened up in the house, and within a month, there was our Indiana craft beer competition.
Okay. From the Guild?
Yep, from the Guild.
Yeah.
And so, it was like a month after open, so we quickly entered some beers, and it was incredible because that first year we won 3 gold medals, all for our house beers that we have on here. more gold medals than any other brewery that year, which was, for us starting off the gate, like it was such a validation, I guess, of what we've been working on so long up to that point. And then, fast forward, was it 2 years later, 3? Our milk stout won gold at GABF that year. And so, again, that was a whole nother level of validation for us that, on this, national scale, to have one of our beers win what was incredible. And so, and they are all designed to be in that, 4.9 to, 6.79% range, which is great. And so, it's funny because people come here and they love the hazies and love the sours, and a lot of those are, in that 8+% range and all that. And people forget that, all of our house beers are below 7%. And again, it's exactly what you say, people who want to come and just enjoy a few beers and not have to, I guess, think a lot about, the crazy flavors that you get from hazy IPAs or sours, things like that. You can just come and enjoy beer, and it doesn't have to be more than that if you don't want it to be.
How much milk stout are you producing? Like, how often are you brewing that?
So, it's still it's still a milk stout.
Right.
It's a good style and people love it, especially the fans of it. Like, it's not like we don't produce as much as like our hazy IPA or anything like that, so it's definitely picks up during the winter, but it's not, GABF didn't make it like where we were, making it, every week, the entire year.
There wasn't a run. It wasn't like a snowstorm was coming in every week.
No,
like
it was like that, but it's a good seller and people enjoy it, and we love, the recognition we got for it.
Yeah,
for sure.
What goes into making a gold medal winning GABF milk stout? Yeah,
that was one of the beers that we spent the most time on before we opened, like, as home brewers. And so a lot of it was, if you haven't made one before, it may be hard to imagine, but it was just iteration after iteration of, okay, how much roast we want in it, how much sweetness do we want from the milk sugars. And so it was back and forth for months, creating what we thought was the perfect version of it. And so there's a lot. It's simple and complex kind of all at the same time. So you have, it's a lot of different malts to it.
Like, walk me through it.
Sure. Yeah. So, it starts with, just a base malt, a two-row. So we love Great Western two-row. It's been great. But then it's, kind of the right combination of chocolate, pale chocolate, and roasted barley. Those have to be in the right balance to make sure it's not, you get the roast character, but it's not overly roasty.
Right.
And then the right amount of milk sugar in there to balance it, appropriately. And then you fill in the middle, with some Munich. And so there's a lot of different malts in there, but when you're drinking it, I guess maybe it combines well together.
Right. Good milk stouts, you shouldn't be able to identify one malt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, it's been...
And then it's just the deft touch of lactose.
It is, yep.
Okay.
Yep, it's finding that right balance. And that was the hardest thing at the beginning, was finding the right balance between roast, and the sweetness from the lactose in it. Yeah, and then bring it all together. So that we spent a lot of time working on that recipe to get to where it is, and it's one of the recipes that we really haven't had to change at all, since we opened.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible. All right, so as I've been sitting here and sort of absorbing the larger space and all of that, it does have Colorado aspects to it. It has German communal beer hall aspects to it as well. And earlier, Abby, you talked about the climate that you were going for. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, what is that? And I feel like it's one of those things that people can say sometimes, and then it feels like you're holding all of the ropes together to kind of keep it intact the way that the way that you want to, but the vibe feels right. So I guess, one, what is the climate, and then two, how have you been fostering that to make sure that you don't lose touch of what you originally wanted it to be?
Yeah, I think for us it started, it's literally in our name, Guggenberger House. We wanted it to kind of be an extension of our homes. We always loved having people over. We felt like Indy needed a place where families, where people, whether you're a single person wanting to come hang out or a multi-generational family wanting to come hang out, mm-hmm. There's room for everybody. And we wanted it to be a place where people could just come and be kind of at their leisure. We have a lot of board games. A lot of larger events that we will put on to just bring people together, and that is kind of the heart of of the tap room itself, basically bringing people together over a good pint of beer, or we have now non-alcoholic options, for those people as well.
Sure.
But yeah, I think we're doing that. And I think we're really proud of that. And I think we continuously have a list of things that we want to improve on, and new ideas that, I had written down 6 years ago, and maybe we'll actually implement them this year. It takes time. But yeah, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but I think we're kind of there. People are really enjoying the space.
Yeah.
Well, and people, I think, like the people that we work with, like I think they enjoy that we give them something they can be proud of. They know how great the beers are. They can support it, be 100% behind it. I think that just makes it just that much better that, they know, the owners truly care. They know that the passion goes into the beer. They know that the passion goes into wanting the space to be the way it is. And I think all those things together make it, easy for them to see our vision too.
And I guess that after people experience that the first time, it's pretty easy for them to come back, or at least like it takes work for it to feel easy for them to come back.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're thinking about CBC being here in town, what's the call to action? What's the, hey, you're going to be here, you're going to be in Indy, or anybody who's not coming to the Craft Brewers Conference but just finds themselves in Circle City coming through, why are they coming here?
I think a lot of people, specifically from CBC, come try the beers.
Mm-hmm.
I think Derek should probably talk a little bit more about all of your experimental beers too.
Yeah.
They're really fun.
Yeah, for sure.
You're messing around with a lot of stuff.
It is, yeah. So you guys can't see the back, of course, but we have a 2-barrel system that we brought over from the house. We have a 5-barrel system that we've been brewing on for the last 3 years, and we just put in a new 20-barrel system just because it was just getting silly. We were brewing, not everyone would think it's silly, but we're brewing twice a day, 5 days a week, no flexibility in the schedule, nothing. And so it became time to where eventually I wanted to spend some time with my family too again.
Right, sure.
So we put that in, but essentially the core of what we've always done is experimentation or perfecting things. Like before we even moved into the space, we were already on a hazy IPA recipe number 80.
Okay.
It was something crazy. And eventually we stepped back from that a little bit, only because it's like eventually how many numbers can you keep going on with? And so we came back to it again. Recently we're doing a lot of lagers, we're doing a lot of American IPAs, hazy IPAs, and we started 3 new series just so that we could basically roll out a 2 or a 5-barrel experimental batch of whatever we want, and we don't have to do extra naming of it. We can just we could take that stress off and just literally just go on and make a fun beer, try something new. And so, basically any week you come in, you can try out a new experimental beer that we did, whether it's a new base malt that we wanted to try, new hop combination. We're always, some of it is not even just trying to do stuff. It's trying to make sure that we know why we're making the choices that we're making. Why do we really enjoy Best Pilsner Malt? Well, if we only tried that one, and didn't try it again, all we could say is, well, we tried it once, we loved, we liked it, so we just kept doing it. Now we've tried 7 different Pilsner base malts, in close succession, and now we can say, oh, we like this malt for this, we like this one for this one, and so we can finally have also more educated, discussions about it too.
Yeah, but I also wonder, because every now and again a brewery hits on something that they become known for, or that resonates with drinkers in such a way where it's like, it's the unintentional flagship. It is just something. It's lightning in a bottle or lightning in a tall boy can, whatever it is. And Abby, you were talking about bringing evaluation sheets to baby showers and stuff. But ultimately, for all of the messing around that you're doing, it's going to be the customers that respond to it and want to give you money for it and want you to keep making it and going from there. Do you have a mechanism in place for not just, oh, hey, we're messing around in the back and we like this combination of malts, but also wow, our registers are a little bit more full now because of this? Is there a mechanism in place for that?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely look at the feedback on it for sure. You know, we can see obviously how fast a beer goes through.
Sure.
Yeah, and so for us, it's, you know, some of the coolest things is seeing that, you know, how much, you know, we started doing some more German style Pilsners recently, you know, and seeing how fast those can sell. It's like, okay, well, this is something that we could do some more of. Or some of it's just trying like a new hop, like, you know, before it was called Crush, like HBC 586, like such a unique hop. You know, we tried it for the first time, you know, we got some cool feedback on it. You know, and so we kept going, and you know, even things like we do the same with. So we got to do hop selection for the last few years.
Fun, yeah,
crazy, like the difference.
Yeah,
like you know, but before like 3 years ago, you know, everything was just spot buys basically. We had contracts, but not like specific lot contracts, and so you know, our hazies were good. Obviously, people really loved them. We loved them, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't really until we stumbled upon what must have been someone else's select Citra lot that we're like, oh, this is the difference between, you know, what some other people do and what we do. It's crazy. Yeah. And so we've got through the last few years, and really the difference there has been amazing. So I guess getting back to what we were talking about, we will do a single hopped beer with each of these select hops each year, and that's also another chance for us to see what people think about them. You know, obviously the important thing is really what we think about it and how we see it fitting into, you know, everything else. But also seeing that feedback where people are saying like, hey, this Citra lot you guys have this year is the best, you know, Citra I've ever tasted before. Like, that feels good for us. You know, we love seeing that. And so it's a chance for, I guess, everyone to also be part of our kind of decision making too.
Yeah. But also, like, for the folks who roll in over race weekend, you know, just giving them, if they don't know what Citra is or they don't care, and I'm not painting with like a discriminatory brush. It's just like people just know what they like and they could just kind of go from there. Is there feedback on race weekend or for the folks who come in for Wilbur and the history? Like, is there a difference in, you know, the Citra crowd where I'm going to appreciate it, like just the person who comes in and is like, oh, cool, there's a brewery where, you know, they used to race cars. Like, is there, and how do you speak to that? Like, to get them to come back and to be excited?
Our taproom team, our bartenders, they do a really great job of kind of starting wherever the customer is at and kind of asking what their, you know, what kind of beer do you typically like, and then working our menu from there. We have our Pilsner, our Hefeweizen is usually a really good like intro to craft beer beer that we would recommend. But I love being back there and just listening to them recommend beers based on kind of what it seems the customer is interested in.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like you guys, because again, being where you are in the city, but also, you know, who you're going to get through because of the historical interest in it, it really does seem like you're hitting it the right way of, you know, not just like, oh yeah, it's our Citra Mosaic, or, you know, yeah, it's a Pilsner, like, what, have you never had a Pilsner? Like, you're doing the right conversations, and it's awesome, and I'm excited for folks when they come to Indy to come here, because I've been here for like an hour now, and like I'm already like thinking about putting a cot in just to hang out. All right, so before we go, on this program for a while now, I've been asking folks the Green Door question, and it's essentially in the television show The Good Place. And the final season, they introduce a concept of the Green Door, and the characters can walk through it and be anywhere they want, doing whatever they want to be doing. So if we had a green door on our plane of existence, and you could walk through it when this conversation ended and be at any pub or any brewery anywhere in the world, where would you want to go? Who would you want to be with? And what would you like to be drinking? And Abby, I'll start with you because you seem not ready for this question.
Are you sure you want to start with
me?
Yeah,
sure.
Oh gosh. Well, at first I was traveling to the beach, so
great.
I'm trying to think. I think I would be
Indiana in February makes you think of the beach. Yeah.
So I won't give it a specific name because I'm not thinking of a particular brew pub, but I would go back to probably Costa Rica to some little beach, having a nice beer with my kids. Sure. Well, you know, my kids are there, but they would love to go to the beach too. So I think that's probably where I would go.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, so I was an engineer before all this.
Okay.
And my grandpa was call him Opa. So he was a big influence on, I guess, my passion for mechanical things and all that stuff growing up. And so I would love him to be there. And kind of another tie we have is, so my great-grandpa came over from Germany just after World War I.
Okay.
So we haven't been here, I guess, that super long. And so there's enough history where we still have family over in Germany that we visit.
That's awesome.
And my grandpa loved that. That was his favorite thing, was to go over there and just have the German experience. So I would pick, any one of those beer gardens over in, say, Munich with him. I think that'd be a great experience.
I love that.
Yeah.
Did you know he was going to ask this question?
I had heard it before. But
Okay.
it's okay.
It's a standard thing.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, it's a great answer. There's also no wrong answers to all of this as well. Thank you for the hospitality. Thanks for opening. Thanks for being a cool part of Indy's beer tapestry. This is important. What you guys are doing here in the location, and the beers are awesome. And I'm not just saying that because I've had a bunch and like I'm feeling it. Like this is really a lot of fun. So I'm so glad that you all got together and did this. And thanks for welcoming me in, and thanks for doing this.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for coming, for sure.
Cheers.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So a reminder, if you're going to be in Indianapolis for the Craft Brewers Conference, come out and see us at Sun King on April 28th, 29th, and 30th from 4 to 6 p.m. as we do a number of live audience podcasts that you won't want to miss. Go to allaboutbeer.com/CBC 2025 to learn more. You can also just go visit allaboutbeer.com, where you can check out new content as well as the archives, which go all the way back to 1979. And you can reach me anytime at John Holl, that's JOHNHOLL, at allaboutbeer.com. And don't forget to follow All About Beer on social media. Before we run, here is a word from this week's sponsors. Stomp Stickers isn't just a website. It's your custom printing partner with over 30 years of expertise. Their support squad is ready to help by phone, chat, or email. Combining top-notch customer service with a super easy-to-use site, they're all about making sure you get exactly what you need, fast. Shop with confidence thanks to their 100% satisfaction guarantee. Visit stompstickers.com and use code ThinkBeer for 15% off of your first order. You love craft beer. You'll love Indy. The Indy Craft Pass is your free passport to more than 40 of the city's best breweries: Sun King, Metazoa, Upland, and so many more. Check in, earn points, score swag. Yes, beer can actually win you prizes. Sip local and explore new tap rooms and make your beer run count. Grab your free Indy Craft Pass now at visitindy.com and let the good beers roll. If you're running a brewery, owner or operator, Beer 30 by The Fifth Ingredient is the ultimate command center. The most powerful brewery management software on the market, Beer 30 handles the entire brewing workflow, from recipe development to production. Once your beer is brewed and ready, it seamlessly manages your inventory and streamlines your brewery's sales and distribution, all in the same easy-to-use platform. Beer 30 lets you get back to the beer and to the people that made you fall in love with this industry in the first place. And no other brewery management software gives you the ability to truly master your business and get the insights that you need to thrive in an increasingly competitive industry. Visit thefifthingredient.com/allaboutbeer today to learn more and receive 3 free months of Beer 30. Don't forget, All About Beer has a podcast channel. Search and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. Steal This Beer has new episodes every Monday, and the BYO Nano podcast comes out on the 15th of every month. As for the show, Nate Schweber does the music, Jeff Quinn designed our logo, and I'm John Holl. New episodes release every Wednesday, and that's when I'll be back again to drink beer and to think beer.